Okay, hello. It is such a pleasure to have you on screen in front of me because it's a bit of a surprise to us both. Shall we start by, do you just give me an introduction to your good self? Tell me a bit about your world, and make sure that everybody knows exactly who you are and what you do.
I am Samantha Harman, the style editor, and I am a style and visual personal branding strategist for predominantly ambitious women. And I started this business because I was a newspaper and magazine editor. That is a very male dominated elitist industry where when you have the name Sam, you are constantly getting confused for being a man. And so I very
Interesting.
quickly had to learn how to use my wardrobe as a branding tool to get other opportunities. And as I was doing that, I started to get messages from other women in leadership asking me to help them. And I was like, but personal styling is a thing. I'm not at this point a qualified personal stylist. Why would you need my help? And I realized it was because personal styling, whilst it has the right intention at heart, is very much about the clothes, and this is very much about the women and the mindset and all
Right.
of the like structural systemic issues that can disrupt your ambition when you are a woman that happens to be the first in generations doing the kind of things that you're doing.
Right. Well, I mean, that's going to keep you busy for a start.
God.
We do have to touch upon the brilliant way in which we've kind of met and how we actually have this interview, because it might not appear to those people who lack a little bit of creativity as to why this is relevant to Digital Wellbeing Week. But we will make that clear. We will make that very, very clear. But I had a session yesterday with the wonderful Samantha Harwood. And I tagged you in by mistake, didn't I? But is there any such thing as a mistake?
I don't think so.
No,
I think the universe was putting us together and making it happen.
I
So
think
I love
so.
that.
I think
Yeah.
so. I've been looking at your content on LinkedIn and loving it for so long. I have your book and I've read your book. Although I have to say I haven't finished it yet because, lots of books on the go. I apologize, but I definitely have it and have read it. So it's just pure serendipitous beauty that this has brought us together, because I have so many questions for you. Now, my world, I'm a desk bunny, okay? I live at my desk and it has done me some damage, I have to say. So the traditional way of looking at well-being would be get me out into the woods, like hug a tree, get some yoga into you, whatever. But I want to talk about how the digital world has an impact on how we style ourselves, how we choose, how we represent ourselves to the world. Because it's not like it's any less important, even if I'm in my little rectangle.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on how the fact that we've moved into remote working has had an impact on the way that we would style ourselves or express ourselves?
Lots of clients, when they first come to me and they have been working for themselves at home, describe feeling like a potato, like a pajama
Really?
potato. And I think if you get it, if you viscerally understand that feeling, you know exactly what they mean.
Yeah.
I think that when we started to work hybrid or work from home when the pandemic happened, at first it was a novelty. It felt really deliciously naughty to be in your pajamas doing
Yeah.
your work. But over time, we've come to realize the psychological impact of that. And that is something that many studies show us. It's something called enclosed cognition. And essentially, what you wear impacts your behavior. So if you wear pajamas, psychologically, the link between pajamas and productivity is very messed up because
Yeah.
pajamas are sleep time, right? So you're not going to be as productive. If you wear something that makes you feel productive, organized, like a boss, you are more likely to take actions that align with that.
It's such a lovely connection, isn't it? I don't think people appreciate the psychology involved in what we wear. Certainly, I don't know how broadly women appreciate the mood enhancer that clothing can be. Or maybe they do. Maybe other things are at play. Maybe it's a whole array of different psychological influences that come into play. But the fun we can have with clothing is unbelievable, even in a box, and that psychological link I think is really, really important. What kind of things do you attach to your moods? Do you have outfits that really full on affect your mood?
I am so we're going to get a bit woo here, but I am a Sagittarius rising, and Sagittarius in terms of energies is very much like the trend. It's a trend setting. Elton John's a Sag rising. Princess Diana was a Sag rising. Like, it's the
I understand
trendsetters
wholeheartedly now with
of the
those examples.
zodiac.
Got it.
So for me, I think someone else could go into my wardrobe and feel like a million people live here, because what is this amalgamation of collection of crazy, one day I'll be wearing a tailored blazer, the next day I'll be wearing a outlandish dress. I very much dress for my mood, and I very much dress for how I feel first. And I think that that's one of the struggles that women have, is that we have been conditioned not to think about ourselves. So in the pecking order of where you come in your list of priorities, you're probably not even on the list, because you have a partner, children, colleagues, family, friends, community, and everything centers around your worth in terms of what you do for other people. And so to think about spending time on your wardrobe, or even getting ready in the morning, I get so much pushback on it from women, not from, weirdly, not from men. Men never, when I speak about this stuff online, men never attack me for it, but women will often tell me how selfish and ridiculous it is to spend time on our clothes. The problem is that we're all consumers of clothes because we have to wear them, because we don't live in a naked society. So
society's not ready for that. Be careful what you wish
right.
for.
we don't, please don't, we're not ready. We're not ready for it. So because we are all consumers of clothing, wouldn't it be better if we made more conscious choices that could help us in our working lives? Because the better you feel, the more you're going to show up for your, if I felt like rubbish in myself, if I felt like a potato, when you'd accidentally tagged me in that post yesterday, I probably would have just ignored it, right? But instead, I was like, hello, if you want to do a session, let's do it. And what if you just said to me, okay, we'll go live in 5 minutes, I would have been able to do it, because I'm dressed for the day. Whereas if you aren't, then your wardrobe becomes a convenient excuse for why you aren't taking the actions.
That's a brilliant insight. Absolutely. People aren't ready unless they look ready. That's fabulous. One of the things that I find really, really interesting is society's rules and what we can and can't wear. I find that really juicy to dig into, and particularly for business. Now, the things that bring me joy, I get feedback quite regularly that they aren't business appropriate. I like dressing vintage. I like my beehive to be obnoxious in height. There's certain things that bring me joy, but it's funny how some people would very much like me to know their opinions on what they feel is appropriate and not appropriate, because I don't have my nipples out. It's not proper inappropriate. What are your thoughts on that?
What to wear has historically been based on a very specific type of person with a very specific set of privileges, so that it doesn't really affect them as much as it might affect other people. And I think that dress codes really do need an update, because the last time that they were formalized was in the 1970s in 2 books by a man called John T. Malloy. So interesting. If you could find a vintage copy of this book, my God, like, it's eye-opening. And essentially the reason was because women were going into the workplace. So it was like, well, we need to tell them how to dress, because we want them to still look feminine and attractive, but we don't want them to compete with the men or make the men feel emasculated. And also, we know that they're just here to find a husband, right? Because women, ambition, not a thing. So that's the last time that they were formally updated. And then with all of the changes since then, all of the rights that women have achieved, all of the technological advances, working from home, none of this stuff's actually been properly updated. And in terms of company policies, I've read some of them where they say stuff like, use your common sense. That's not That's not a
It's not a
thing,
policy.
though,
Yeah.
because different people have different cultural backgrounds, they have different levels of understanding, they have different needs. Just to say to people, use your common sense is really not acceptable.
And it's such a
And,
cultural term as well. What it means
but
is use
yeah,
my common sense.
yeah, it's like you use, like, it's just thinking about me and me being in this culture and me having the privileges that I have and me just assuming that everyone else has the same level of understanding of what I mean when I say use your common sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we don't tell people until they get it wrong
Of
because we're too
course.
scared to have the conversation because managers haven't been trained properly. So therefore, if someone comes into the office wearing something that is deemed inappropriate, they don't know how to have that conversation with them because they've never actually told them what appropriate is.
Yeah.
So we really need to be talking about this way more, especially when, if you are anyone who's working, what you wear affects you because it's ultimately about your identity and your beliefs, right? So if you are standing in front of your wardrobe 10 minutes before you have to leave for an important meeting,
Yeah.
feeling like a potato, on the verge of tears, you have to just quickly grab a blouse out of the wardrobe that barely fits you and then go into this meeting and pretend that you are the epitome of confidence and everyone can feel that you're not, and you spend the whole time in your head telling yourself how terrible you are. That's a
Mm.
real career problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not fair that we're just leaving people to deal with that because we don't want to touch workwear as a concept just in
Yeah.
case we get bad PR.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And the thing that nobody really discussed in detail is that the quality of your clothes absolutely has a direct relationship to your comfort in your clothes. Now, I'm not saying go spend thousands of pounds on stuff that you can't afford. That's not the message. But the quality of the fit and the quality of how comfortable you are in that shell is so important to your own physical comfort and therefore how confident or how controlled you appear. And I don't hear anyone talking about that, but I know that you can talk about that.
I could talk about that for days. Yeah, I'm like, hold my drink. Let me dive down this rabbit hole. Yeah,
Thanks
there are
very much.
studies that show, I mean, the studies on this are quite limited, but there are some studies that show that because everything has a vibrational frequency, so do clothes and so do the materials that our clothes are made from. Polyester has one of the lowest vibrational frequencies, so it's much lower than the human normal vibrational frequency that we are like vibrating at right now. Linen, organic cotton, they are higher. So essentially, if you wear things that have a higher frequency than your frequency, that will then raise your frequency, right? If you wear things that are lower, that's going to lower your frequency.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
quite
it
interesting because
when
I
yeah.
sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, when you think about how those materials are made, it actually makes sense because polyester is really bad for the planet. It's a finite resource. In some cases, if you want
Highly
durable,
processed.
yeah, if you want durable clothing, there has to be, if you have something that is blended with polyester, it is going to be a bit harder wearing. So sometimes you will need to make the choice that you have something that is a polyester blend, like this jacket. But I've had this jacket since before the pandemic, and
Mm.
I've worn it countless times. And then silk as well is another one that people would think that that is high frequency, but because of the way it's made with silkworms, it's actually really low frequency material.
Right. So, I mean, nobody's here to kind of like judge people. Like, whatever you choose to wear, if it's done with a full sense of this is for me and I love it, I got nothing to say. It's much more the idea that we're doing ourselves a disjustice when we don't allow ourselves to be playful and individualistic about it. And I think it comes back to what you were saying, that the expectation is that we are the least important thing in our lives. We have so many other things that we need to prioritize. Why would we spend time on ourselves? But interestingly, we're allowed to spend time on ourselves if it makes us more attractive. Now, nobody really talks about to who, but we all pretty much know what we're talking about here. Our attractiveness is really the prime real estate that we're working with. And I would really like to push back on that. And I would very much like to start understanding that the attractiveness is your own choice. Attractive to who? Attractive to you. Are you feeling good? Is this something that gives you joy and fun and is something that does no one any harm? Like, these are the kinds of questions I think are so important. And it does worry me, the pressure that's put on, particularly young women going into a workforce, particularly not understanding whether there are rules in play, what's appropriate, what's not. That's a lot of stress to be putting on somebody for something so very unimportant, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that we need more communication around all of this, more support with it. Everything else in business, because it is seen as inherently masculine, I suppose, we
Right.
get training and help with, right? It's a serious thing to invest in your business if you buy a new laptop, or if
Mm.
you invest in some sort of AI tool to help
Yeah.
you with your admin. That's serious business. But the stuff that you wear every day, no, that's really silly and frivolous and selfish.
Can you imagine if HR, as a full department, suddenly decided, right, we're going to open up a workshop for everybody to help them find their most authentic, comfortable style that excites them and brings them joy? Can you imagine that? Because I can imagine that,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
don't think many other people can.
Lots of them resist it. So I work with some HR departments
Yeah.
to facilitate workshops and confidence and visibility and everything else. And I've also worked with some recruiters who have then had massive pushback from the companies. From HR departments, massive pushback on this. And it's almost like,
Right.
I think it's something to do with being in the digital world, is where everything is very binary. So it's like this or that, black or white. Actually,
Okay.
there's this whole gray area that we all exist in, and we're all hyper, what's the word for it? Like, we're all multifaceted, and we're all complex, and we're all
Yeah.
hypocritical. That's it. We're all hypocrites because we do one thing and we do another, and we have some behavior that contrasts with different behavior. And I think that the online space and the way that conversation is almost very much shut down means that HR departments are very afraid to have this conversation, and they just take it in the context of like, we're telling people what to wear. You know,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're having a dialogue with people, if you get buy-in from people and you actually try and understand them on a level that is about them as a human, that's not, you're not going to get pushback for that. You would get
Yeah.
pushback if you send out a memo that says no one wear shorts in the heat wave, or whatever else that you've been
Yeah.
sending.
Yeah.
That's worse. That's
Yeah.
worse.
Without a doubt. I mean, just describing rules arbitrarily isn't really meeting anybody's needs. Now, what I'd be really interested to know is what you think about working remotely. And bear in mind that it's a Zoom world, it's a Teams world, Slack, whatever. What does that do for our identity? Is it different from the real world way in which we dress ourselves and present ourselves? And let's not be too shallow with this, because dressing ourselves is part of identifying ourselves in the world, and I there's kind of two things there. I'd like to know what you think that working remotely does to your identity, but also after that I'm going to bring us back to this idea that everyone thinks it's silly and frivolous. I think we should unpack that a bit more. But talk to me about working on a screen. How does that affect what my choices should be and in what I wear and how I present myself, do you think?
You should think self first, and your confidence and identity is really important. So one of the problems that we have is with top dressing, and I know this has become a bit of a
Okay.
viral joke that people do top dressing, right? But the problem
Business
with
on
that
top.
is, right, you're portraying an image of you on screen that is incongruent with the rest of the picture, and you are the only one that knows that. So that means that it's messing with your self perception, because you're on a call in your jacket. But just to clarify, I always get dressed. I am wearing a full outfit, but you are, just say you're
Same.
on a screen and you're just in your jacket, and underneath you're wearing your pants, and then in the background, like, your environment is also a bit of a mess. It's like you are pretending. It's like you're faking it. And that then that then leaks into the way that you talk to and about yourself. And it means that you probably don't put yourself forward for as many opportunities as you could. It means that you're probably not building up your personal brand on a platform like LinkedIn because you feel inauthentic, and so you don't know what to say, and you don't take any images of yourself. And that's a business problem. Because let's say that you don't get the sale that you wanted, or you don't get the promotion that you wanted, and that was like a 10 grand a year promotion. Think about the cumulative effect of that over the next 10 years, this significant amount of money that you're leaving on the table by not getting dressed every day. And it sounds so insignificant, but the rule that I always tell my clients is the 1 in 60 rule, which is aeronautical mathematics, because we love the science behind these things.
Always
Where
love a bit of science.
essentially, if you are flying a plane and you go 1 degree off course, you will end up 60 nautical miles away from your destination. So
Sure.
every day when you get dressed, you have the chance to get yourself back onto the right flight path. So if you said that your destination at the end of this year is to, I don't know, get a promotion or have a 10k sales month, whatever arbitrary or important goal that you have set yourself, if that is your goal for the end of the year, and every single day you unintentionally dress for the opposite of that, you will end up hundreds and hundreds of miles away from your intended destination. Whereas actually getting dressed every day is that chance for you, regardless of what's happened yesterday, to get yourself back on the right flight path.
Now I'm hearing that, and I completely agree. The analogy is sound, but we have to acknowledge, we absolutely have to sit here and acknowledge that we are open to backlash here, because there's a strong chance that people who enjoy dressing casually or dressing against femme norms or whatever it might be might feel that that excludes them from this conversation. So it's really, really nuanced. It's not really about fulfilling a particular style or dressing a particular way. It's being authentic. It's presenting yourself outwardly in a way that you are fully behind, that you feel is authentic, right? Because I could see how, let's say that I love tracksuits. Generally speaking, I wear a tracksuit if I'm going to do some kind of sport, which I don't, so I don't wear tracksuits very often.
Yeah,
Does that mean that tracksuit can't be rocked with absolute confidence? No, of course it doesn't. Absolutely right. And somebody might very well look at me and say, oh, that mumsy dress, oh no, you should do better for yourself. Wear something low cut, wear something a bit tighter, and all of these incredibly nuanced norms and opinions that we put on each other just creates this real noise that we can't get through. But let's be really clear on this one. It's actually about finding what you can authentically present yourself with and be joyful about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to find your own personal style, and the world is becoming so less stylish because everyone looks the freaking same, and everyone's dressed so great. If you spend a lot of time in like London like I do, and you're on the tube or whatever, everyone looks the same because we're all just wearing the same thing, and no one really wants to stand out in that way. But when you get to the end of your life, say you're 90 years old, you're going to wish that you dressed for exactly who you are, and dressing to these norms is not always the best way to go. Like when I became a newspaper editor, I looked around and I thought, well, what do newspaper editors wear?
Right.
Oh, they all wear black suits. Of course they do, because every single editor that I'd worked for was a man, a middle-aged man, not a woman in her 20s. And so the rules, regardless of, at first I did try to conform to that. There are pictures of me on my first week in one of the newspapers I took over where I'm like smiling in a black suit, because I tried to conform to what the expectation was of what an editor looked like. And guess what? I still got someone sending stories about me to Private Eye. I still got loads of abuse online. I still got a coup in the office about me being in charge. So it would have been much better for me to have found my personal style, felt amazing, and just owned it from the beginning. And that was the journey that I had to take myself on, which then eventually led to other women asking me to help them with that same journey.
Yeah, because they could really relate. to what
Right.
they were seeing.
Conforming
Yeah.
is not always the best way to go. And I would never seek to tell someone that their sense of style or self-expression is wrong. If you feel amazing in a tracksuit, you know you feel amazing, like go for it.
Yeah.
Just wear that, love it, do it. I work specifically with women who aren't wearing the things they actually really want to wear. They do know
Right.
what I mean when I say you feel like a potato, and it's all this other stuff. It's because they have been taught that womanhood equals martyrdom and there
Yeah.
isn't money to spend on themselves, or they grew up with parents that told them that money doesn't grow on trees and women
Right.
who invest in themselves are selfish. Like all of this other stuff is happening. When you get dressed in the morning, you're not there alone. You're with all of the ghosts of all of the people who've ever told you anything terrible about yourself.
Absolutely right.
So I would never seek to tell anyone like your style is wrong. The most important thing is that you feel amazing. And that's really what people are getting from you. It's energetic.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. And what I'm finding really interesting is I work on a project called 100 Working Women, where I do 100 women interviews with working women. It's named well. And the one thing that they're telling me, which is really interesting, is that there's absolutely a timeline involved. So as women are reaching a certain stage in their career, the message I'm getting is amazing. Every single time, I like wearing more color now. That comes out like in your between your 40s and your 50s, I think, age wise. But it's generally once you've reached a level in your career that you've got a confidence in, and that you realize that you are a competent, fully capable human being, all of a sudden color comes in. And I remember when I was growing up as a teenager in the 90s, color was everything. Like color was everywhere. And then we had this dip because we went into the Kate Moss era, the grunge era, where colour was seen to be far too joyful. And that got taken away. I find the history of it quite fascinating. What's your relationship to colour? How do you feel about it?
I love it. I have never shied away from wearing color, and we know that it has so many health and psychological benefits. Wearing
Colour
color
therapy is a thing.
color therapy is a thing, and that's whether you're wearing color or if you just have color in your environment. I should caveat this by saying that I am moving house right now, so hence
Sure.
the reason that I do not have, but I in my new house I do have leopard print wallpaper,
Do you?
just FYI, in my office. It's been confined to my office. My husband was like, I draw the line.
I
That is
love
not going in
that.
the rest of the house.
Love
We'll
that.
see.
Leopard
We'll
print
see.
is animal print is a lifestyle, not a
It's
pattern.
neutral. It's totally a neutral. Totally. And I do see the difference when I put someone in color. So I have a client who's a therapist,
Yeah.
and when I first met her, she was wearing all black, and she had this incredible mural in her office that was all of the colors of the rainbow. And she said, I would love, like, that feels like my personality, but I find it really hard to wear that. And
Right.
she had all these other reasons, because she was quote unquote plus size, which is a whole societal
Yeah, we'll get there.
nightmare. And by the end, she was dressing in all of those colors, and I could see the difference in her confidence, and then the difference that made to
Yeah.
her business and her relationships and her relationship with her children. It's incredible to watch that happen. And
It's
color is an amazing tool.
Yeah, it really is. I think that one of the most damaging statements that ever came out in the world was that black was slimming. It's just one of the most damaging things to be told, really, because it immediately taps in to any lack of confidence. You think, well, that's my fallback. And again, don't get me wrong, there's nuance, because who doesn't love a little black dress? I mean, it's all nuanced. It very much depends on you as an individual. But I've got another question then. I think we're in agreement that the whole point of dressing is so that your personality can shine in whatever facet that is. And if you don't know who you are, then it's going to make sense that you don't know how to dress. Is that
Yes,
fair?
that is very fair. Yeah, it all comes back to your relationship with yourself, and
Mm,
most of the work specifically at the beginning is about untangling. It's almost like you've got a jacket and you're pulling a thread and all of it
Yeah.
comes undone, and you realize how much of yourself has been held together by other people's expectations, stories that you've been told about yourself and women in general.
Yeah.
And we have to unlearn all of that before we can build, because there is no point in someone saying to me, oh, I need some new clothes, and me saying, great, let's go shopping for some new outfits. That doesn't help them, because all they're doing is just putting outfits over all of this layer of invisible rubbish. We have to get rid of the rubbish before we add the outfits.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean,
You know, I've worked.
ultimately, everything belongs to the bucket of find out more about yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yep, it's all personal development and a self-development journey. And I've had clients before. I had one in particular who had worked with a personal stylist a year before, and she had some really lovely pieces in her wardrobe, but they were very much the classic style personality.
Okay.
And she wasn't, and I could tell this from just speaking to her, from learning about her. And so it was a year later and she hadn't worn any of these clothes. And it's because we can't just put women into arbitrary boxes about what they're supposed to wear. We
Yeah.
have to find out so much more about them, because regardless of your upbringing, whether you, like me, are from a working class background or whether you grew up very affluent, we all have stuff, right? We all have stories and beliefs and problems. And it's really important to
Mhm.
understand all of those before we start buying more clothes.
Yeah, completely. Slightly related. It's taken me back to when I was in my teens and I got mistaken for being a boy so often that I thought there was absolutely no point in me trying to wear a dress or anything colourful or anything, because everyone already thought that I was a boy. And that, of course, will have shaped my decisions as I went through. But this is really interesting stuff. In which case, why don't we hit straight on this idea that why are we wasting our time with something as frivolous and silly as clothes? Because I find myself having to justify this as something profoundly more applicable to life than just clothes. It's
Mhm.
almost like being playful isn't enough for people when it's one of the most adaptive and growth encouraging things that you could do. That's how children learn. But we're not
Right.
allowed to be, are
Yeah.
we?
We're not allowed to continuously evolve our identity in the way that children are. So you get
Right.
to a certain age, it's like, no, these are the rules. This is what society expects of you. This is how you're supposed to dress. And that's that, conform for the rest of your life. And I think a lot of us are waking up to, wait a minute, I don't want this. This sucks. I'm not going to do this with my one precious life. I really feel that, without getting too philosophical, there is a reason that women and people like us exist at the time that we do, with the technology that we
Mm,
have available to us. I don't think it's coincidence. I think that there's a reason for it, and we are supposed to challenge and question and change these arbitrary systems.
yeah.
And it's, in that regard, it's not frivolous, but it's also not frivolous from a planetary perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been through an awful heat wave, and the climate situation is not getting any better. And we know that tons and tons of clothing gets sent to landfill every year. So even if you think that you are donating your clothing to charity, most of it is of such bad quality it can't be resold. So
Yeah.
up to about 90% of it ends up in landfill. It gets shipped off to places like Ghana, where there are massive rag piles. It gets taken to Chile, where there is a mountain of it that you can see from space.
Mm,
And we're all in some way contributing to that, right? I'm contributing to it, everyone's contributing to it. So isn't it better to make conscious decisions about what we're purchasing and why, than to continue to contribute to this massive problem that's going to affect future generations as much as it affects the people who made our clothes? Because
yeah.
most of our clothes, they're made in garment factories in places like Bangladesh, where not a single worker and has earned a living. There's a report, I think it was from 2019, it's definitely in my book. Not a single Bangladeshi garment worker earned a living wage.
Mm,
And H&M is a company that makes a lot of its clothing. there. And I think that it's a very privileged position to be in, to say that clothing doesn't matter, because what it tells me is that,
Yeah.
one, you've probably never experienced it matter. Like, you've never walked into a shop like I have done and be told there's nothing here in your size, or like that this isn't for you, right? That could be that. Or it could be that you just have a level of privilege where you don't have to think about the person who made your clothes. And clothes have been commoditized. Places like Shein and Temu, I can't even say it like without
Yeah.
wanting to throw up. They
I'll bleep it
have,
out later.
yeah, beep, it's a swear word, beep. they they have made clothing feel as transient as grabbing a cup of coffee, because it's
Yeah.
so cheap, though it's just, we just don't think about it. We're like, oh yeah, I want that I want that. And so I don't have to think about how much it is, and therefore who is paying the real cost, because there is a huge cost attached to it. We're just not the ones paying it.
Yeah, and my worry is, because I spread the message a lot, let's be playful with clothes. What I don't mean is buy a ton of it, you know? And so it's a very difficult sweet spot to find in the middle. One of the ways that I've been trying to tackle this is locally. I set up a shared wardrobe, a community wardrobe called Pockets and Petticoats. And what I'm dying for people to do is understand that if we all get together, and you know those things that you have in your wardrobe that you have strong connections to, so they don't get given away. They
Mm-hmm.
they don't get thrown away. You just store them. You just pay your mortgage to store these clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm getting people to kind of hand them over to the community wardrobe and encouraging people to be playful with what we already have. I don't know if it's going to work. It's early days, but it's certainly something that would allow us to keep the playful. Let's experiment. You don't know if blue suits you. Don't waste 80 quid on something. Come to the wardrobe and try it out, kind of thing. So that's how I'm approaching it. But as far as work is concerned, it's such a strong boundary, isn't it, between how we dress for work and how we dress for life. Mine's blurred now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely don't dress differently if I'm seeing friends or if I'm going to work. It all depends on what theme I'm going for that day and what my vibe is. So I don't know, but I'm aware that that's not necessarily the case, is it? People are still very much divided into, these are my work clothes and these are my social clothes. Do you separate your wardrobe like that?
No, I don't. I'm like you. I'm
Okay.
like, today I'm gonna be an Edwardian prince, and
Yes.
tomorrow I'm gonna channel Elton John. So I just go with the mood. But that takes a level of that has taken all of the untangling that I talked about earlier.
Yeah,
For
sure.
a very long time, I absolutely hated myself. I can't even describe how much I wanted to escape being in my body, because I'd grown up in the toxic society that told me nothing is good as skinny feels, and you
Yeah,
don't look right, you're not,
yeah.
you're you know, the words that are used against, and seeing things in the media like Jessica
Kate,
Simpson
I
being called,
love you, but why?
yeah, no,
Why?
that sentence, nothing tastes as good as, that rings in the heads of Gen X and millennial women like over and over and over again
Yeah,
on repeat. And it's there every time that we go on holiday and we're trying on our bathing suits, or every time that we
yeah,
have an event to go to, or every time we have a big work presentation, even though we cannot help it, she's there in our heads being like, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
yeah,
You should have starved yourself. You look
yeah,
terrible. Whatever.
yeah.
So to get to a point where I genuinely open my wardrobe and love it and look forward to getting dressed up every day, and some days put on 5 different outfits because that's just how I feel, that's taken so much work. And I think if you are in that space where you currently do feel like your wardrobe is a weapon against you, and you just aren't even like, you're not even acknowledging the rest of your body, you just kind of only
Yeah,
look at yourself in the mirror from the shoulders up,
yeah,
it's very hard to relate to someone that says, I love getting dressed, because you're like, that's never a
yes,
feeling that I've ever had.
yeah,
That doesn't sound real to me.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes when I'm being particularly full of whimsy, that it makes people uncomfortable. So I find myself saying, it's okay. You don't have to love this. If it tells you something about what you like and what you don't, like you're thinking, I would never wear that. Brill, because you can use that.
Yeah.
And
Right. Your style is not someone else's
yeah,
style.
yeah. Please let me help you decide what not to wear. Absolutely not a problem. But one of the pure delights that I've had as I've progressed through business and life and become a mother and all those things is I've suddenly realized that people's opinions on me and how I present myself are none of my business.
Yep.
They're
And
just
they're not
none of
even
my
about you.
business.
It's not
Ooh,
not even about you. They're always about the other person.
yeah.
It's
How
always about
rude would it be if I got involved?
right, yeah, like this isn't you if they're not paying you, it's none of your business. Is how I it's how I think
Nice,
of it. Like
nice.
unless you want me to send you an invoice, don't involve me in your personal stuff. Because
Yeah.
it is about them. It's you're just mirroring to them something in themselves that they need to work on and it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's
and
that's all
genuinely
it is.
can make people feel uncomfortable. A lot of people will share with me that something isn't very flattering, so as though they're helping me or
Oh my God.
something. And it's so sweet. I mean, I love that. It's like, oh, it's okay,
The
that's
word
fine.
flattering needs to just get in the bin. I might, you know,
Really,
I might, I might
talk
petition
to
about
me.
this. I'm going to write to
Okay,
my forget all of the other world problems that there are. That's what I'm going to write to my MP about today. God, the word flattering.
you hate it.
What does it even mean? Why are we trying to be flattering? It to me, in terms of traditional styling, it's all about making women look like the hourglass shape. So only
Yeah,
around 8% of women have what you would call an hourglass shape. And everything else is built around making women look like an hourglass shape. Why are we doing this to women? Why are we forcing them to fit themselves into a box? It's just like take up space, take up as much space as you possibly can, because we live in a world at the moment where women are being forced to shrink themselves down and not take up
literally.
space and get quieter and smaller. And I notice it, on LinkedIn. I've always had a fun time on LinkedIn with people taking issue with me and what I say. But more and more, I've noticed lots of men feeling emboldened to talk to women in a certain way on LinkedIn. And I don't think it's a
Interesting.
coincidence. I think it matches the political climate that we are in. That's spilling out into life. And it's really important that you take up as much space as possible. The whole reason that we have these arbitrary boxes to fit women into is patriarchy. So
Mm.
if you go to somewhere like the Bath Fashion Museum, it's amazing, but it will make you really angry if you're a feminist, because it I went there on a hen do, and
Oh
everyone
yeah.
else, all my friends having so much fun. I'm walking around there getting more and more furious. My
Where did
friends
our
are like, why
pockets go?
yeah, they're like, why can't you just enjoy yourself without making everything a feminist crusade? I'm like, because I just this is me. So either we're
Yeah,
friends or we're not.
yeah,
And you really see it. You really see how at the beginning of fashion history, everyone wore relatively the same type of clothing. Everyone wore sort of a smock, and they all
yeah.
had pockets or they had bags that they would carry things around in. Then, as patriarchy took hold of what is now modern society, that stuff, that freedom was taken away from women. Everything became restrictive. They stopped being allowed to carry things around with them just in case they were passing on pamphlets about female empowerment. It's patriarchy. And I hate the word flattering because that essentially is what it all goes back to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's purely historical. I mean, I think we need to pause for drama
Right,
here.
right, right. I'm not like, right, let me just clear that run off the desk. What else am
Yeah,
I?
but
What
I
else am
like
I?
that. It's made me really think about that whole concept of flattering. It's just about conformity, isn't it? Being as close to the ideal as we possibly can, which leads us to have an obligation to ask, whose ideal? Why?
Right, yeah.
In
What
whose
for?
power are we working here?
Yes, yeah. What
And
for?
I mean, that's a good life question, don't get me
That's
wrong, but that actually is an organizational question as well. That's actually something that you can take straight to the boardroom, ladies. I mean, this is relevant.
please do. But we just we aren't having these sorts of conversations in the workplace, and I think they are the most fundamental, important questions that we could have. And lots of companies that I have worked with or that I have been speaking to about doing various bits and pieces, you know, they are investing money into leadership development, but a lot of it is being hosted by people that the women like. The women will go into a room and it's like a day session on, I don't know, negotiation or whatever else, that is delivered by somebody who doesn't get what they're dealing with. And
Sure.
there's no space for the fact that lots of women, not only are they navigating, they're still ambitious. So just because you have children doesn't mean that you've lost your ambition. So you're still
Oh, absolutely.
ambitious, but you're also doing this second shift at home.
Mm.
But you're also being told, you know, if you aren't present in the office, then you are just going to lose out to somebody else for that
Oh,
promotion. So you're
absolutely. You'll lose
like,
out, but you must be present for your children as well. It's
right,
very important you
but that you're a
understand
bad
that.
mother. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you aren't
Yeah.
present enough for your children, even if your children are very happy, no, you're a terrible mother. So you're having to navigate that, and then you're having to navigate all of the physical and identity changes that women go through in a lifetime, because we
Yes.
go right from puberty through to pregnancy, and then postpartum, and then perimenopause and menopause. We go through all of these physical significant changes, and we're trying to dress for a working world that is not working for us or our wardrobes, and we
Yeah.
just kind of have to pretend. And then we have to sit in these day-long sessions about stuff that doesn't actually tangibly help us, and all we're thinking in the back of our mind is like, I've got so much to do. I've
Yeah.
got that whole to-do list, and then I've got to pick up that birthday cake for Susan's birthday, and I have to get my mother-in-law a card, and I have
Yeah.
to make sure that I've made those cakes for the PTA sale, because if I turn up at the school with baked shop
With
bought
ball
goods,
goods. Yeah.
I'm going to be, looked down my nose at for being a terrible mother.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot win. It's exhausting. And I just wish that companies would just acknowledge what women in their organizations are dealing with.
Yeah.
Because she might turn up with a smile on her face and be like, yeah, okay, all good, fine, and say yes to everything because women have been conditioned to do that. But behind the scenes, under the surface, she is navigating all of this other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was thinking while you were saying that is I've got mixed feelings about this whole digital world that we now have to navigate as well. I've said it quite often, particularly during this week, this digital wellbeing week that we're running, is that we now have to manage two of ourselves, our physical self and our digital selves. And sometimes those lives merge, and that's great. And sometimes those lives are very, very different. Now, my concern is perhaps that the pressure on women is now massively increased by the production values of social media, of LinkedIn, of even the classic town hall of the powerful leader, female leader. I worry about all of this pressure to again conform to an ideal that doesn't exist and isn't their ideal. What you're thinking?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we have never been more connected. If you think about our parents, they could go to work. A lot of women back then, would have had to have kind of been stay-at-home mums anyway.
Mm.
But, a man would have gone to work 9 to 5, come home. No one can contact him because unless you have a landline, that's it. Like, you are at peace for the rest of the day. I'll check in tomorrow. The only way of getting the news was on the 6 o'clock news or the newspaper.
Mm.
Now, from the minute we wake up to the minute that we go to bed, we are plugged in. And that is exhausting. And you are trying to manage all of these different selves, like you say, like your physical self and who you are in person, and also this digital version of you, because people make judgments of you when they don't know you just from what they've seen online.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
had
And
it
we
happen to me so many times.
Yeah, we have this new phenomenon of the personal brand as well, which is tightly related to this digital self that we have. Our personal brand didn't exist so much when it was just our physical space that we were concerned about. So that's another pressure. Now, I'm just beginning to be aware of the fact that I'm taking up a lot of your time. So I'm going to consciously feel like we should wrap this up for the recording. But what's become incredibly clear to me, as most of these conversations this week have. This is part one. This is absolutely part one. We need a follow up on this because it touches upon so many different aspects of what it is to use clothing as an expression of our identity, and I really want to dig into that further. But I've got a rumination, a little thought. I can't speak for the men. It would be rude. And I'm just not that rude. I'm a sweetheart. So I'm not going to try and speak for men. But I do often feel like this is an area that I'm sad for them. They don't get the beautiful array of clothes and colors and patterns and all the choices that we get to express themselves, and I wonder whether that's changing or not. I am seeing much more flamboyant dressing from men in certain industries for sure. Any thoughts on that without us falling into the trap of speaking for men?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for men, but I absolutely agree with you, and this is why patriarchy, which is how, you know, historically we have been, where the dress codes come from now, it affects everybody. It's not just a women thing, it affects men too.
Yeah.
And men do struggle, I think, with self-expression because they are told this is how a man should dress, this is how a man should behave.
Yeah.
I've noticed it. I have some flamboyantly dressed male friends, and when I've been with them in person, like, I've just noticed how people have reacted to them as if it's a bit weird. And also the other thing that I think that we need to acknowledge is the way that this affects non-white people, people of the global majority, because there are, you know, studies that show that getting dressed for them is different again, because they are judged in a different way
Of course.
than I would ever be as a white person.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
I
that
have to
on
accept the
top of it.
limitations of what I can speak from my experience, because it is so very much shadowed by obviously my own worldview. So I think that's a really, really important point for obviously that'd be interesting to follow on that conversation with the right people with experience. That'd be really, really good to do. Yeah, it's strange. They seem to get socks and ties. That's what we
Yeah,
give
it's
them.
like, oh, he's wearing a fun tie, or he's wearing
Yeah,
a fun sock. It's a real
I love them.
shame because it's
Yes.
self-expression. And then if we look at society in general, and you know, the World Cup, and how there's in general, men might go to the pub and drink a lot and whatever with their friends. Like, if men aren't allowed to express themselves in more creative ways, that causes issues for society as a
Oh
whole.
yeah.
And I think it's really sad that men are judged when they do try and branch out a little bit. I really love to see a
I love
man
it.
dressed like however, and that's why someone like Harry Styles, as an example, is
Yes.
really great. All the lads from the hockey show, I can't remember what the show is called now, but the styling that they have outside of the show,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just it's great to see it. And even, you know, thinking about gender norms and stereotypes from a perspective of like dressing children is so.
Yes.
I recently went into a baby shop, and on one side of the room was all boys' clothes, and on the other side was girls' clothes. And
Yeah.
it's like, why are we gender coding outfits like this from the minute a baby is born?
Oh my
It's just
goodness, we need to talk about this. Yeah, for
it's,
sure.
yeah, it's a whole
And
thing.
one of the phenomenons that I enjoyed so much, that told me everything I needed to know about what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. Look at the response of Tom Holland doing that lip sync as Rihanna.
Oh my
That
God. The
was,
best video ever.
I every time it comes
If
up,
you haven't
out of
seen it, that just lives,
respect.
it lives like rent free in my
Yeah,
head. I
out of
think about it
respect,
at
I have
least,
to watch
you
it
know,
all the
yeah,
way through.
it's
But that is
fantastic.
such a beautiful example of how things go out of the norm so successfully because of how authentic it is.
Yes. That is masculine. Tom doing that video,
Yeah,
that is healthy masculinity. That is the
totally.
epitome of like
It was
healthy
art.
masculinity. Yeah.
It was proper, creative, expressive art. It was beautiful and so authentic. And the fact that I still think that it was last week cracks me up. I mean, it's been like decades.
Because it's always just popping up on my timeline, because my algorithms just train like, hey, you having a bad day? Here's that video that you like again.
Never gets old, never gets old. Right, well, I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for your time. We could keep going for hours. We can, but out of respect for our viewers, we will wrap it up. But this is not the last. I'd love to have you back, and let's really dig into it, particularly that idea of how we how clothing works with our children as well. I'd love to talk about that.
I would also love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. You have a brilliant rest of the day, and I'll go and upload this to YouTube. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.